Hey guys, this is Trey, the general manager of Squeegee Squad here in Tulsa. Today we're going to be talking about risk and problems that come along with window cleaning. To be honest, most contractors like to make it seem like there's absolutely never going to be any problems and that there's no risk to anyone whenever they're on site dealing with your building. That's just not true for anything, right? There's always risk associated with any job, all the way from a storefront to a high-rise. So today we're going to get transparent and try to dig into some of the problems and risks that come with doing commercial window cleaning. So the first risk that we really want to dig into is going to be safety on site. And this, to be very frank, is one of the biggest ones. Injuries, accidents, they happen on site. So things that you can expect from commercial window cleaning. Obviously, we have pedestrians, which means if we are working at height, you can expect that we are going to be using barricades and cones to cordon off an area for people to avoid. That keeps them safe. It also keeps our employees safe, because whenever we are doing either complex or dangerous work, the last thing that they need to be worried about is people potentially walking into their work area. The way that we avoid these risks and these problems is through our operating model called predictable excellence. What does that mean? We could dig into it for hours. On the safety side of it, what that means is that all of our technicians are trained and certified. They are third-party tested, and they know that whenever there is a safety issue on site, to stop work immediately, contact their operations supervisor, and come up with a new plan. That way we can mitigate the risk before it ever becomes a problem. The second major problem or risk that you have to consider when choosing any vendor really, but specifically commercial window cleaning, is their insurance and then their certifications. So insurance, obviously, is how we mitigate risk in case of property damage. So for us, one of our main priority focuses is always to protect our customers' property, right? We do not want to damage your property. We want to not only take care of it, but we want to leave it looking and feeling better than it was whenever we got there. But sometimes accidents do happen, right? Whether it's a squeegee gets dropped and it chips some concrete, these things occur occasionally. And so whenever that happens, you have to make sure that your provider has the correct insurance coverage. Now, if you're sitting here thinking, how much coverage do they need? Typically, you're looking at anywhere from a $1 million to $2 million liability policy. That generally will tell you that somebody is actually insured. But it is important that you continue to check up on that insurance. Sometimes you will have people that will get an insurance policy and then cancel it after they get a specific job because it saves them money. We don't do that. We're always paying for our bills. We highly encourage you to ask for our COI. That way you can see what kind of insurance we have and feel comfortable with that. The other major risk or problem that you really need to consider when choosing a vendor is what kind of training and certification process they have for their technicians. Whether it's plumbing, electric, or commercial window cleaning, you need to know that the people that are working at your building have actually been trained and are in accordance with the rules and laws of OSHA to be on site and working at your property. So always ask your service provider, what's your training program like? And then can you give me the certifications for everyone that is working on my property? That will cover you beforehand. That way you don't have to worry about it later. The third major problem that we have to look at is going to be property damage. This is a risk anytime you have somebody come onto your property and do work. Inherently, you're risking property potentially being damaged while they're there doing that work. The common things that happen in window cleaning specifically that we see a lot of scratched glass. And that's typically from a bad construction cleanup where they were using very large razors and scraping the glass like this to get it off of there. We see a lot of scratches from that. We also see people using steel wool on pieces of glass that they shouldn't, whether it's tinted, other types of glass are more or less durable, and they can't hold up to things like steel wool being put on them. So we'll see that a lot. That kind of looks like a little swirling motion typically. Up high, whenever we're talking about the rope access guys, property damage there really happens typically whenever somebody is not paying attention to things like light strips, right? So you got to be very aware of things like light strips, light fixtures, all those kinds of things on the side of the building. But also if somebody ever were to take a fall onto their backup line, oftentimes you're going to see somebody smack into the building, right? And that's a reality. If somebody goes to a backup line, there's no way for them to control where they're going in that moment before their backup device stops them. So we expect to see damage in that scenario, but that's why there's insurance. That's why we train our guys so that even if they do take that fall, they can get themselves down. The other big problem or risk that you need to think of is going to be professionalism and consistency. Those two things are vital for us here at Squeegee Squad. We have long-term technicians that have been here for years. They've been trained by myself and the rest of my staff, and they know what our accountability system is. I talked about predictable excellence earlier. Our accountability and our operational system is built around always doing the job right the first time. So risks that you can potentially see is, if you have unprofessional technicians working in your building, especially Class A office buildings, hospitals, that kind of place, it just looks bad. Obviously, people don't like unprofessional contractors in their space, smelling like cigarettes, sweating everywhere, talking loud, being a distraction, right? So that's a potential risk or problem. Consistency is also a big issue that we see just generally in window cleaning, but I think in a lot of other trades too. A lot of companies kind of have a revolving door in window cleaning. Why? It's not the highest paying job in the world. Usually companies run a little bit more chaotically, to be honest, because they're offering a lot of other services besides just commercial window cleaning. And that's part of the reason that we switched to only commercial window cleaning. We want our technicians to get really good at one thing and do it the same way every single time. That way you don't have to worry about it. So we hope that you've learned something from this video today to understand the risks and the problems that can come with doing commercial window cleaning or really any other service at your building. But what we hope that you get out of this, A, is to be educated about all the things that you need to know specifically about the dangers of doing work whenever we're doing window cleaning, but also so that you can feel reassured that if you're bringing Squeegee Squad out, we've already thought about all these problems and these risks. We've already documented solutions for them, and we're prepared to do every job safely and without inconvenience to you or your building tenants. So with all that, if you're interested in learning more, please go to our website, check out our self-pricing tool, check out our other videos, and give us a call if you're interested. Thanks, have a good day.